This program contains copyrighted material that may be used for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research under the provisions of Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. All rights to the copyrighted material used in this program are reserved to their respective owners.
Hello, and welcome to our series, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. I'm your host, Blessings Wynn. Today, we introduce a young woman who abandoned her Christian upbringing to pursue Wicca and Eastern meditation. Despite being a close family member of 3ABN's founder, she became quick prey to New Age spiritualism. Join us as we hear Hailey Wolf's compelling testimony on the doorways into the New Age. Hi, Hailey. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. We want to know a little bit about your faith upbringing.
Yeah, so I was raised in the Seventh-day Adventist church. Went to a Christian school, went to church every Sabbath, very Christian background.
Right, sounds like you're checking all the boxes there.
Yep.
So did you find that having a grandfather such as Danny Shelton, did it influence you? Did you find that helpful?
Yeah, there was a lot of experiences I got to have, just fantastic experiences. I got to travel a lot with him as a kid, watch him evangelize, really see how ministry works. I had a lot of good opportunities with all of that, met a lot of great Christians.
Hailey, walk us through your journey as you stepped away from Christianity.
Yeah, so as I was growing up, like I mentioned, surrounded by lots of Christian people. But in my teen years, I started noticing a lot of these Christians that I knew were very hypocritical with a lot of things. They would say, hey, we need to live these certain ways, but they really weren't walking the ways that they were speaking of. And it concerned me because I was afraid that, is this what happens to people as they get older? You don't follow these really great practices, that we learn from the Bible. Does that mean that these practices are too hard to follow?
Mm-hmm. Right. I can definitely relate to this. I can remember feeling the same way and perplexed at times. But we must remember that we can't legitimize Christ by followers of Christ. It's the other way around, right?
Absolutely.
Christ is the one that justifies, sanctifies, and glorifies us. So did you find yourself dabbling in things that you knew were prohibitive?
Yes. So for me, it actually started with questions of, is the Bible accurate? Are we sure about this? I heard some arguments from atheists that I thought were very compelling. And because of that, I feel like I was more inclined to dabble in other things because, wasn't so sure that, hey, maybe like spirits and things like that don't actually exist. And why is it people would believe in stuff like witchcraft? And I think that was a big reason I started deciding to dabble, was just experimenting, to see like, well, is this real? Why are there people who call themselves witches? And I ended up trying out a few different things. I went to the library, started reading on different kinds of witchcraft. Wicca appealed to me specifically because they say that, you only practice good magic, light things, no spells that will harm people. And so as I was looking into that, I learned, what materials you would need, how to do spell work. I dabbled with things like candle magic. I bought tarot cards.
Right.
And really, though, my experience was interesting because I was trying to approach it with the scientific method, right? You know, it has to work again and again before I can decide that this is real. And I actually found a lot of the stuff didn't really work for me. Like the tarot cards at first, you know, I wasn't really getting like answers that weren't just really vague. The candle magic, there was a lot of that. I feel like it could have just been a coincidence.
I see.
The things that actually started working for me though were things like I started practice automatic writing. So that is when they tell you, you know, okay, just like clear your mind, don't plan on saying any particular things, maybe ask a question and just let the pen go over the paper. And I wrote things that didn't sound like me, but they were very good answers. And if they were questions about like, you know, how to do a certain thing or where I would be at a certain point, it actually seemed very accurate. And so just seeing some of those results started to get me a little bit more interested. Like, well, maybe there's some kinds of magic that work for some people and other ones that don't.
So did you ever find yourself recalling scripture? You know, there are several warnings within Exodus, you know, throughout the whole Bible, Isaiah, you know, that says that you have to try the spirits and that we should stay away from divination. Was any of that coming to your mind, or was this experience so powerful that it took you in the complete opposite direction?
Well, at the time when I started actually practicing these things, I was calling myself an atheist because I really just didn't believe in the Bible or God. And it's funny looking back on that now because, you know, well, if I thought there could be spirits, maybe that was, you know, not quite atheism, right? But my atheism made me brave enough to just try a lot of different things like that. The Bible verses, I mean, like, I heard in the back of my head, you know, like this is not, you know, okay, right? But that's, I just attributed that to, oh, well, you know, it's because I was always told that. It's drilled into my head. But it could just be like, that's just what they said, doesn't make it true.
Right, there is an appearance that being versed in the Bible is a source of brainwashing.
Yeah.
And, you know, the thing that kind of makes me feel like we had similar experiences is this whole clear your mind, right? And what we don't understand is that when we empty our mind, we allow ourselves to become a vessel for something else that doesn't necessarily have the best interest. Did you find yourself dabbling, say, in any kind of physical types of worship?
So yes, in Wicca, because I was trying to follow all the rules, make sure, you know, I really gave it a chance. There was a lot of books that said you need to build altars and, you know, you can choose gods or goddesses from different pantheons, or you can just go with the general, there's the goddess and then the horned god.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. Who is the horned god?
So the horned god, there were a lot of interpretations on that. People would equate him to the sun god. You would see sometimes statues, people would use Baphomet, which you see a lot in like Satanism, like a goat thing with the horns. But when I was looking at it, instead of looking into all of his lore or anything like that, you know, I just figured, okay, we'll generalize it and say he represents masculine energy, and the goddess represents feminine energy, and you can represent them by the sun and the moon.
That's really interesting because in yoga, which is something that I became pretty versed in, and even lived abroad, you know, went to an ashram and studied this. There's a parallel I see where they too have a sun and a moon energy, and the whole point of it is to allow yourself to be able to awaken the serpent at the base of the spine. And so this is known as Kundalini energy. So there's a similarity between Wicca and like a common thread in yoga, Eastern mysticism.
Yeah, I actually found that it was my dabbling and beliefs that I ended up developing through Wicca that allowed me to see like the yogic spirituality more clearly, because I already understood things like the clearing of the mind. I already understood the different energies they talk about. Things like chakra work and all of those things they have in a lot of yoga, but it's also part of a lot of witchcraft too. So it was almost like the Wicca practices prepared me for yoga. Yeah.
So you spent time studying yoga as well, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
I went to school for yoga. How I got into it was I had heard that yoga was a really good practice to like de-stress and that it's an easy exercise.
Right.
And so I remember I went online, tried to watch some videos and practice, and I found, okay, yeah, it's slowing me down. It's easy enough. And so I started attending an actual class, and I was a regular. I kept going because I found that my mind was clearing up and I was enjoying the practice. And the yoga instructor came up to me after one practice and asked me, hey, have you ever thought of becoming a yoga instructor? You're really good at this. And I was looking into what kind of career I might want to do at the time. And I never thought to do yoga like that, but I really enjoyed it. So I thought maybe, yeah. So I looked up schools around. I found a whole college just for yoga. And I had a lot of experiences going through that. Originally, I got into it thinking that I was going to be learning a lot of anatomy and physiology, you know, the stretches, exercising, those kinds of things. But as time went by in the classes, it started transitioning to something much more spiritual. Now, when I walked in, there were already things like, you know, statues, there was Buddha and Krishna and things like that. But to me at the time, they were just statues, and I didn't really think anything of it. I had a lot of Wiccan understanding of the world at the time, but I still was very agnostic about a lot of things. So I didn't really believe in those gods, but I did start believing in energies. Energies. Yeah, which is a word that some people use, a safe word almost, rather than saying things like spirits. Yeah, right. They say energies.
So I just want to backtrack a little because you said something that I thought was really key.
Yeah.
You know, the way that yoga is marketed here, it's, you know, innocuous with like exercise.
Yes.
Do you feel that yoga is exercise?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
And how would you say it differs from exercise?
Well, after I was finished graduating from the yoga college, I actually also went into training to be a personal trainer with like regular lifting weights, cardio, that kind of exercise. And it is very different. You have a totally different mindset when you're doing it. I feel like yoga is very much a spiritual practice. There's a lot of exercises you can do and stretches you can do, but in the context of yoga, there's a different goal. The goal isn't just fitness or flexibility. The goal is what they call oneness and
yoking.
Yeah, yoking, becoming one with everything around you.
And more specifically, becoming one and yoked with Brahman.
Yeah.
And Brahman, for those of you at home who don't know who he is basically the head god in the pantheon, right?
And that was a concept that at first, you know, because I wasn't so sure how I felt about gods and things like that, I wasn't really so into that idea. But as I started doing the practices more, they have breathing practices.
Pranayama, correct.
Pranayama, yes. So controlled breathing. Meditation classes, yoga, the movements and the exercise is actually, they would always say this is a moving meditation.
That's right.
Yes.
And therein lies the difference.
Yeah.
And the thing that I learned that I, you know, didn't actually realize until after I had, you know, discovered the darkness of yoga was that the actual point of yoga is to exhaust the body so that the mind can then be emptied. And, you know, the unification of the deity that you're worshiping could then come into you.
Yeah.
And that each exercise is actually supposed to bring death to a different part of the body. So the whole goal is death and union with this serpent spirit.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even know that a lot of these poses, some classes, they'll use the original names, but a lot of them, we have English terms for them, like say the warrior 1, 2, and 3. No matter what yoga class you're going to, they always have the warrior 1, 2, and 3 in it.
Right.
But a lot of people don't know you're reenacting a story.
That's
and
right.
The original name for that is Virabhadrasana.
Yeah.
So asana is like the pose, and Virabhadras is actually a god, and he was a murderous god. And you're acting out a very graphic killing
scene.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, a lot of people aren't aware that there's actually a lot of things with that. Like, for example, so when you're learning to teach yoga, you have to do poses in certain sequences, like these kind of poses and then these kind. So you have to teach it a certain way. And what's happening here, though, is a lot of that even has to do with like chakra energy kind of work. They're trying to get your body and your mind in certain states by doing this.
That's right.
Whereas, say, in regular exercise, you know, obviously you're not doing that, right?
Not at all.
But we can take, so a lot of people who do normal exercise, they know about plank, right? And you see that exact same form in yoga, but there is a difference. And the difference is when you're doing it in yoga, you're flowing from one thing to the next, and you're using that to push different energies, or maybe even tell one of those stories, get into a certain position to worship.
Right. It links all the mythological stories.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Whereas if you're just doing that, like, you know, like a normal ab exercise, I mean, it's okay, you know.
Right. There's no spiritualism involved in that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you find yourself at this yoga college, and at this point, are you starting to decide, you know, there's truth in this, you know, I need to go deeper?
Yeah, so it's interesting how it worked for me. I've always been such a skeptic, and so going there, you know, I saw most of the people I went to school with were actually Christians, and there was some other like Taoists and Buddhists, right? And I noticed as the classes went on, the months went by, a lot of, say, even my Christian friends, they started practicing Christianity in a very Hindu way.
Right.
And they started seeing Jesus as, oh, well, you know, he has this thing called Christ consciousness.
Yes.
And, you know, like, we can all be like gods, you know? And for me, you know, I saw this happening, but I also saw how they were feeling. And I noticed, like, wow, you know, like they seem happier, they seem healthier. And so I started getting interested, a little bit more interested in the spiritual side, just because I was looking for something to calm myself down with as well. But it wasn't until after I already graduated yoga college, I started feeling like, okay, you know, like I need to like really make sure I'm the best I can possibly be if I'm going to teach people. And so I can't just be really good at the poses. You know, I really got to dig deep down into, say, like there's writings like the Yoga Sutras, get better at meditation.
And that's so key, because it's not just exercise, right? They give you a pose and you want to be able to perfect it. You see the other people practicing with you and they can get the pose to a degree that seems impossible. So then you go to your yoga teacher and you say, hey, what's up with that? How come she can do that and I can't? And before you know it, you're in the books studying this stuff.
Yep. And see, originally, I just got into it thinking it was just exercise I would be learning, but absolutely not. If you're going to do it right, you know, you can't avoid the spiritualism in it.
So you're deep in yoga, you're deep in Wicca. How did you find yourself moving out and back to your roots?
So what happened is I actually got really deep into yoga. My grandmother mentioned to me about like, hey, you know, this is actually a dangerous practice. This is the first time I'm really hearing that. Like, this is actually a dangerous practice. You know, it could be leading you into all sorts of things. And when she said that, I decided I need to look more into this. What am I missing from yoga? And actually what ended up happening is, as I was discovering, oh, there's a lot more, I started getting into the real Hindu Vedanta, which is like Hindu scriptures to really understand. And I realized, wow, there is so much more to yoga. Like, this is really a branch of the Hindu religion. And so, you know, she may have thought at the time, like, uh-oh, because I started actually getting more into it when I found that out. And before you know it, I was in a mind, like a completely different state of mind where I felt like, wow, I'm actually believing this now. Like, I'm believing because I did the meditation, I did the yoga poses, and it really influenced me. And I was getting just so confused about, like, well, how could anyone believe anything other than, you know, like,
because there's some things that are starting to manifest and materialize.
And
the Vedantas are actually very dangerous, because you start to get into the kind of the chemical portions that people don't know about. Like the gift of Shiva.
And
talk about that a little bit.
Originally, when I started meditating, I was practicing to clear my mind. But now that I understood what the point of that was, I took it to the next step. Okay, I need to become one with Brahman, which to me, I was, from what I understood, an impersonal living being that is in everything. We're all Brahman.
It's in the table, it's in the shoe you wear, it's in the fruit you eat. God is all, right?
Yep. And I started really feeling that. Something that I actually believe influenced me even more with that is during a lot of these meditations, to connect better, I would get high on marijuana.
And this is one of the blessed gifts from Shiva, who is basically an avatar of Brahman. And he's the god of this particular type of meditation. So you find yourself doing weed. Now you're deeper in your practice, even though, you know, your wonderful grandmother has said, hey, you know, this is dangerous, get out. How did you finally find your way out?
Well, in the end, I believe, I always tell people my story is a rescue story, because in my head there was not a person I could talk to who would ever convince me otherwise at this point. I thought everyone else was confused. They weren't enlightened, they weren't awake enough. And I went outside and I sat down to meditate. And I decided, you know, I was thinking about, as I was looking at nature, you know, I made this interesting, because you know, if I'm the creator, I made this, it sounded weird, you know, it sounded kind of strange. But I was looking at how beautiful everything was, and that's when I started getting this familiar feeling. It was warm and of love, and I started recognizing it as, this is what I would feel when I was praying to God as a child, the Christian God. And I just immediately felt, you know, this pull in me to ask God one more time, last chance. God, did you really make this? Or is that blind thinking? But he actually answered me. And it was such a crazy experience. And he showed me, I made all of this. This was love. And
it's incredible. That
was just the start, because as soon as he gave me that, I knew I had to go straight to the Bible. I had to go straight back into, well, if that was God, I need to like learn correctly about him, because in New Age and Hinduism, they take Bible verses out of context.
Flip them around.
Yep. So
and put you in the place of God.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he's so merciful that even in your act of apostasy, that he could still reach you. So
it's
that
so
gives
crazy.
us the knowledge that no matter how far gone you are, that God has mercy and forgiveness, and he has an outreached hand to you and will take you back.
It's so beautiful, because I didn't do anything to deserve that. I kept rejecting him and running away, but he kept trying for me. I had been so far, and he was the one who pulled me right out of it.
And there are thousands, probably even millions of people in your same shoes. Would you make an appeal to people who might be in your same predicament?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I could tell you is that if you are involved in New Age, it can be very confusing. They take scriptures out of context to try to make it look like the world is one way or God is something he's not. But my appeal to you is, please go back and actually read the Bible, because if you actually take the time to learn what the book actually says, and not just what the gurus tell you, not just what the witches tell you in the books, you'll see it really is very different. And even if you're not so sure that the Christian God is the true God, give him a chance. Just pray, ask him to reveal himself, look into his word, and he will.
And what you said is so specific. And what I heard is basically, when you go to the Bible, first pray, appeal to God from the heart, be sincere. And secondly, make sure that you go line upon line, that it's precept by precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. You don't have to rush. But that same effort that you took to be in meditation with the Antichrist, you could make that same dedicated effort with God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and you can be delivered.
Absolutely. The Holy Spirit is a teacher to us. So just pray, ask to be taught, because he will reveal himself.
Thank you so much, Hailey. As we come to a close, be not dismayed if perilous practices have become a part of your life. Our guests are primary examples of Christ extending his love and forgiveness to them. You're not alone, so please, you can be delivered from evil. If you found yourself, a loved one, or an acquaintance deceived by a wolf in sheep's clothing, rest assured there is a way out.